Welcome to Romera Records virtual cast. Today we have on John. How's it going?
Outstanding, man. If it were any better, I'd have to be twins to enjoy it.
Awesome. So yeah, I just had you on from Pod Match and basically I just thought you'd be good to have on. So if you could, I guess just go ahead and get straight into like who you are, what you do, and how you got started.
Sure, great. Thanks, Jackson. Hey, and thanks for reaching out to me on Podmatch. Um, and we'll talk about that in a minute too, because when you first reached out to me, I'm like, okay, Romero Records, what are they about? And I went and I listened to a couple of episodes, and it just so happened that in that cluster of episodes I listened to, they were all music related. I'm like, dude, I'm not a musician. So but there I do have some equity and collateral in there. I've done a lot of things in my life. What I'm at now is I'm a leadership and communication coach and trainer. And I kind of evolved there after a 42-year career as a public affairs specialist in government agencies and in the Navy. But prior to that, I tried just about everything under the sun. I was everything from a short order cook to a janitor to a journalist to a electronics technician, a disco dance instructor. So there's a little music background, uh, all kinds of stuff like that. And so I've always felt that life was too short and you just should try just about everything, and nothing should be considered beneath you. And the more experiences you have in life, the more marketable you are, but the richer and fuller life you have. And so that's what I do now, is try to help people have that fuller, richer life by finding that motivational fire that burns inside of them, keeps them going, and then sharing that positive light with others instead of, just being down on each other and stuff. So long history of how I got there, but
So I do actually have a question about the pod match thing. So a lot of people, which obviously like Romero Records, and depending on how you speak English, you could think it's Romero Records podcast. But
true. I didn't, and it never dawned on me that way.
but like, so did you just go to my YouTube link and see like the in-person podcast? Because I've always been curious because a lot of people say like, oh, the you've got music podcasts, but like even somebody passed on me on Podmatch because of that. I'm just like, well, you obviously haven't looked at all my podcasts because the majority of my virtual cast have been Podmatch people, and like none of them have done music. So
Yeah.
I would say
Well,
maybe just a
more
few.
recently and afterward, I went to the YouTube and I saw, the broader variety, but I think I was looking at Spotify or something.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
So yeah, most of
yeah.
those have been like music people recently on like the streaming sites, so like Spotify,
Right,
Apple.
right. And so I picked up a few of those. I'm like, okay, these are all folks who have some connection to the music industry. So,
Yeah.
so when I answered back to you, I said, well, I did have some exposure to the music industry. I mean, like all people back in high school, at some point in life, right, we're in a garage band. I played the guitar. Um, I sucked. I wasn't like it was a garage band called Good Smoke. But it was the '70s, so that's
That's
it
a
just made
cool
sense.
that's a cool name.
It was a cool name, especially for the '70s, right? People just kind of automatically thought we were, cool dope heads, but we weren't. It was only one dude in in the whole band that actually smoked. Um, but I really, it was weird because I was a shy kid when I was in high school. I was a little guy. I was 5'3", weighed 110 when I graduated.
Dang.
Um, so yes, I was the little kid in school picked on by bullies a lot. So I didn't do much that would draw attention to myself, because when I did, I'd get beat up.
Hmm.
And so, um,
Where'd you go to school?
you know, this was in New Jersey.
Jersey. Okay, yeah,
Yeah, by
Jersey.
high school, I was in New Jersey. I started in Brooklyn, and then moved to New Jersey when I was in elementary school, the latter years of elementary school, just before middle school.
It's a tough area.
And it was, especially at that time, and we're talking '60s and '70s, because I'm old. Uh, I went to my 25, 30, and 35-year high school reunions, and those are the only ones I went to. And I noticed something, even from the 25-year one. There were some old people there.
Hmm.
like, one dude looked like Colonel Sanders. I'm like, we cannot be the same age.
That's funny.
Yeah, and there was more. I mean, and I looked around, and there was more hair on my head than was collectively in the room. I was like, man, what is going on? And the people that were, I don't want to say in the worst shape, but they were the athletes, like all the good looking, really fit jocks and stuff. They didn't age well.
Mm,
I shouldn't say that, make that collectively across the group. There are some guys that still looked really good and stuff, but it was just like, wow, you know. And it was funny because um I'm sitting there hanging out with people that wouldn't have given me the time of day, back then.
mm,
And I had I'll get into I remember I told you I was a disco dance instructor for a while when I kind of finally came out of my shell. So here I am like all these years later, and there's all these dudes that used to beat me up, uh, that now we're sitting there kind of like, telling their stories with each other and reminding themselves of being tough guys and stuff and all
mm.
and being in the sports games and stuff they used to play. And I'm dancing with their wives. So in the end, like who won out on this battle, right? Who's jealous of who now?
So something about that I always think about when people have those kinds of stories, even when we see movies of like the kid that gets picked on and comes out to be more of a hero of a movie or whatever. Um, something that always intrigues me is the fact that like most young people don't think about that. And I'll be honest, I thought about that when I was young. Like when I was, it really hit me when I'd probably say the second semester of my senior year. So that's like January to May.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it really started hitting me. I was like, I mean, I didn't pick on people. I was a jock. Like I played all the sports, but I was pretty like laid back and cool with people. And I'm from like a small town in Aniana, Alabama. And so like everybody knows everybody. So like bullies weren't really tolerated. Like it didn't exist. But
Wow.
I thought about that going toward the second semester of my high school year. I just started talking to random people. And, I actually didn't start this podcast until 2019. But that was really like, if you think about it, that was really the beginnings of that because I just started talking to random people and just like getting to know them and trying to understand like their high school experience and like who they are. Cause I realized I was like, I've been okay with these people. Like I talk to them, if they need a pencil, I'll give them a pencil or something. But like I don't know these people, even though they sit next to me every day in class. Like I don't know these people. So I just started talking to people. And one girl, I started talking to her a good bit. And she was like, why are you being so nice to me? And I was like, what do you mean? She was like, I mean, you never really talk to me. And I was like, I don't know. I guess I just realized I'm probably not going to really see you ever again. And it'd be nice to just get to know people that I've been talking to for forever since elementary. Because I actually went through a K through 12, so it was really like from kindergarten to 12th grade, you pretty much saw the same people.
All of the same cluster of people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like people would come and go, obviously, but it was pretty much the like same at least 60 to 70 people. I graduated with about 100 people, and about 70 of them were all the same people. But yeah, it was just interesting. I think younger people don't really think about the rest of their lives like that. But I
Yeah.
did. I thought about like why wouldn't I just get to know these people? Because I might not ever see them again.
Right. And they may enrich your life in some way,
Yeah.
or you may enrich theirs in some way. That's just it. Jackson, the people that are around us, they have such intriguing and wonderful stories that we could learn from, even if unfortunately it may be a horror story. Right. So, and the thing is, well, you don't know what other people are going through in
Yes.
their life. And so we tend as a society to treat people in ways that are based on snap decisions. We look at somebody and I use this analogy a lot. You go down the street and you're walking on the sidewalk, and there's somebody walking towards you in the same direction, and you're kind of in the same space. And as you're approaching each other, you look at this person and you have made a decision in your brain whether you're going to step aside and let them get past you, if you're going to maintain your course and make them go around you, or if you're just going to cross the street and avoid them altogether. And you've made that decision in probably something like 3 seconds.
Mhm.
Why do we do that? Why are we so judgmental? It never occurred to us like, hey, let's stop this person and say hello. Let's see what they're about, right? You never know. And the thing is, we always see differences that we have with other people instead of looking at what we have in common.
Mm.
So stop looking at people by their color, by their religion, by their size, by their age, and making judgments and decisions about what they're about. Hey, we're both at the same ball game, right? We've got something in common. We're both working at the same job. We've got something in common. We're both struggling math class. We've got something in common. Whatever it is, we've got something in common with everybody on this planet. And if we look and concentrate on the commonalities that we have instead of the differences that we have, we could get along so much better. And then take that to the next level, right? Look at the commonalities that we have and strengthen our relationships, and then look at the differences that we have and how those differences can can actually enrich us, right? They can add to the abilities and the talents that we don't have. Like, I played the guitar. That's as far as it went. I wasn't really good. I was not a singer. I was a lousy athlete. I was I I tell the story a lot, and you may have heard me relate this story. When I was in high school, I wanted to be like the other kids. I wanted to, play sports. And I did play, like street football and stuff, but as far as like, an organized game, forget about it. Especially, I was way too small for football. I was way too small for basketball and very unskilled. Um I sucked at baseball too. I could hit the ball every once in a while, but I wasn't strong enough to really get any mileage out of it. And so, the only other and I hated running. I listened to one of your podcasts. You talked to somebody, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He was he was talking about physical training and stuff and the bad things about running. Hey, I grew up originally in Brooklyn. You didn't run distance in Brooklyn, right? You sprinted to the nearest fire escape, up over the rooftop, look for someplace to ambush or hide. You didn't go distance. So this whole track and field running thing, that was out. The only thing left was the wrestling team. Now picture me freshman year of high school. I weighed probably about 92 pounds.
That's crazy.
I hadn't broken the 5-foot mark yet. I was this little tiny thing. I was way under weight for the lowest weight class, which was 106. And and again, I wasn't good, right? And so the coach just laughed at me, goes, dude, you need to go work out. I need you in that weight room. I need you pumping iron and building up some muscle here. You gotta. So I'd go in the weight room, right? And all the gorillas are in there. I'm afraid of half of these guys in there. The other half of them I knew, would just ignore me. If they did pay attention to me, I'm in for ass whooping. So I would just kind of saunter around and look for something that nobody else was doing, so I didn't get in the way. What am I going to do? Excuse me, can I use that barbells there for a second there? Yeah, really. So I sat on the leg press, and I was pumping iron on the leg press, and that was the only thing nobody else was doing. So everybody else is building up their arms and their shoulders and their chest, and I'm sitting there in the leg press. My legs just like got huge. I was popping. I was actually lifting the entire stack, which was 750 pounds.
Mm.
And so I had these massive muscular Popeye legs and like olive oil's upper body. So I couldn't pin anybody. I had no upper body strength. I could barely get a takedown. I get a takedown if I can get my legs under them.
Mhm.
But if they got me pinned to the mat, I had no upper body strength to pull them off, but my legs were so strong I could kick out
Mm.
and I can get out from under them. So my claim to fame after several years on the wrestling team was I never got pinned.
Mm.
They gave me the nickname the Mighty Mosquito because I was small, I sucked, and I mostly got swatted.
Oh my.
But you try to do everything you can to fit in, right? We work so hard in our lives to make sure we fit in whatever environment it is that we want to be. And especially in those like middle school, high school years, we're struggling so hard to figure out where we fit in life. And we want to get some respect. We want to get noticed in a good way. And maybe even we want to be in charge of stuff because if we're in charge, then nobody can push us around. And this is what we go through in this time frame. It's a very tough uh, time in those formative years. And so it took me quite a while to figure out, where I was. And I didn't until I got into college. Like I said, I really felt that I didn't have much worth. I didn't have much to offer because the bullies made me feel that way.
Mm.
And the other people who were indifferent, like they didn't hate me, but they also didn't like me. They made me feel that way because I didn't exist. And as I grew up past that and got into college and ultimately in the workforce, I realized, man, nobody should ever be made to feel that way.
Mhm.
And when I started seeing that behavior being replicated, even in the workplace, I've really fought hard to fight back against that. And that's how I ultimately evolved. And first in the communicating side of the things, as a journalist telling stories. And then I realized the best way to do that was to help somebody else tell their story. Help those other people that were going through their challenges tell their story. Because if you tell your story, other people can hear it and they can learn from it. And maybe they can help you if you still need help. When I got into disco, that was the era. Um, I was determined. I was watching all these guys get all the girls because they could dance. I'm like, okay, so I'm not good looking, I'm not tall and all this other stuff, but I got to be able to dance. I got to try this. And so I kept practicing. I'd watch American Bandstand and Soul Train and all those shows and watch the moves, and practice with a chair or whatever. And I'd get out there and I'd ask 40 different girls to dance at the clubs. Maybe I finally get one, right? There was a good looking guy I hung around with. And so he would get the girls and they usually would have a friend. And so the friend would be stuck with me.
Mm.
So I'd get out there. But once I started busting out the moves, then people were like, hey, how'd you do that? Oh, let me see that again. And it wasn't the attention on me that I was enjoying. It was the attention. I'm sorry. It was the ability to help that other person learn that move. And then watching them go out there and get recognition for it and watch them get success and watch them now show somebody else. And all of a sudden it was spreading and I knew where it started from. And so I've realized that my enjoyment, my personal reward was helping other people to achieve. And so, like I said, I went into ultimately, like I said, as a journalist, helping people tell their stories, and then into the Navy, where I was also a Navy journalist, and then it went into public affairs, which is basically the same thing. And so for the past 40 years, I've been training scientists, engineers, cops, and other people who are not the type that you think are communicators learn how to tell their story.
Mm.
And that's been my career, and what evolved in all of that, in helping people learn to communicate and tell their story. Those those communication skills are so strong in basic leadership. And so that evolved into leadership training. So I was doing that as a side hustle for about 25 years, doing leadership and communication training and coaching. And I really found that more rewarding than even the day job. So I literally just retired in January after my 42-year government career, and am now pursuing, or shouldn't say pursuing, now focusing all my attention on the leadership and communication coaching and training.
That's pretty wild. Like, I have a ton of questions on like everything you said, but I would like to go back to
There's so much, right?
yeah, yeah, that was a lot to process. So I would like to go back to basically, even when you were talking about just your size and everything and going to the gym. So I had this experience one time, and my experience is going to lead up to my question to you. I went to this party. It was one of my best friends. He was having a party, and it was at his house, but it was like a big barn that he had had at his parents' house. And so we've just like set up beer pong and like all this stuff that we're just like, we're just blasting music, having fun. It's good old Southern barn party or whatever. So I end up there's this guy and this girl show up. The guy's very good looking, his girl is very good looking, and they just seem like cool people or whatever. But when they ended up pairing me with this guy, he was my teammate for beer pong, and then he was like, "What's up, man? My name's whatever. I forgot his name, but
Mhm.
he was super nice, and he was like a pretty fit looking dude, and I was like, this dude is the biggest douche. But now granted, I'm 6 foot and I'm like 230. And I've been this way since I was in like a junior or senior in high school, about 6 foot
Yeah,
two.
you're the guy I wanted to be.
And I'm seeing this dude, and he's probably just a little bit shorter than me, and he probably weighs like 190 or so, and but he's fit looking. And I was like, this dude's gonna be the biggest douchebag. He's got like Fabio type hair, like long brown. I was like, and one time I shot and I missed, and he's like, "Oh, it's okay, man. You'll get it." And then I was like, "This is douche," but he turned out to be the nicest dude I've ever met in my life.
Mhm.
So cool. And again, like his girl was very attractive, and she was like, "I am so sick of going to parties and bringing him because every time I show up, I went to high school with all of these guys, and they always want to know if my boyfriend is coming. They don't even care about seeing me." And I was like, this is hilarious because I thought this dude was gonna be a douche just because the way he looked and he was
Yeah.
super nice, but he was literally one of the nicest people I ever met. But my question to you is, was there ever anybody in the gym, seeing you as such a small person that actually ended up coming up to you and actually just helping you and being genuine and talking to you that was one of those like big dudes and really fit?
Uh, Unfortunately, not at that point in my life.
Oh,
Not
okay.
at that point in my life. I did come across other folks at other times in my life that were like that. That said, "Hey, come over here and let me help you out, or why don't you get on this here for a while?" So that did happen at different times, but it didn't happen in high school. I did have a handful of friends that, and I was on the soccer team, by the way, for a while. I was the official bench warmer. Um, so I did have a handful of friends that I kind of clung to, that would make sure that I got to participate in stuff. Like, like the couple of guys I hung around with that played in that little garage band. Um, and then, a friend of mine that was on the soccer team. And then we became really good friends, and we started going, actually go to the clubs together and stuff later on in life too. Um, and so there were those couple of people that helped me feel like I did have worth, at least to them. There were a couple of girls that actually, would give me the time of day, and we would be friends, and we would go, ride our bikes together and stuff. But as far as dating, wasn't going to happen.
Mm.
you know so it was like, okay, how come my friend gets to date all these girls and I've just got to be friends with them? um and that took a while, to really, for life to change. um but it's funny you mentioned the really good looking dude, and you think he's going to be a real jerk, and he turns out to be the nicest guy. I was on a plane, and I was flying by myself, and this guy gets on, and you look at him, and he looks like Don Johnson in his prime, from Miami Vice.
Mhm.
Um, really good looking, very fit. He's wearing clothes that are not off the rack, right? And he gets in and he winds up sitting next to me. And I'm like, oh, God, this guy is going to be such a jerk. When he sits down, he crosses his legs in an airplane. How do you have that kind of flexibility? Man, I hate you. Right. And as he's reaching for stuff, his arms are like, bulging in his jacket and like, and we started talking just because you sit next to each other on a plane and it happens. It turned out to be the nicest guy. He was a teacher at National Defense University.
Mm.
And so we started talking, and he would bring me in to be a special guest speaker for his leadership classes.
Oh, wow.
And we wound up having, this great relationship. He turned out to be, like I said, the nicest guy, right? So he actually helped me get it in to doing professional leadership training. This is very, very early in this. Is around 2004, maybe even earlier, 2003. Yeah. So we were just like, so he actually encouraged me to start doing more of this teaching and training stuff. And so, and gave me what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of the belief in myself, or the confidence that
Mhm.
I could do this. He said, hey, come talk to my class. And so you look at stuff, and again, it comes from the place where you least expect it. But I have to tell you another funny story, real quick. When you talk about, when you're meeting people and you make judgments about them. It was another airplane story. And I tell this story a lot, but it's one of my favorite stories. So, when you're flying by yourself or you're traveling by yourself, you always wonder who you're going to wind up sitting next to, right? So I got on the plane, got in the window seat, and I'm watching the people come down the aisle. And I'm like, oh no, please don't sit here, the baby. No, that kind of stuff. Well, here comes this stunningly beautiful woman. She's of Indian descent. And she sits in the aisle seat, and nobody got in the middle. And so, like I say, here's this stunningly beautiful woman, and we're sitting there, and I said, hey, we got lucky. We got elbow room. Nobody got in the middle. And we just started talking. And she had this marvelous accent. Like I said, she was Indian by heritage, grew up in Bali,
Mm.
and then spent many, many years in Australia. So it was like this musical lilt to her voice to add to the whole, physical beauty. And throughout the conversation, she was telling me how her father is setting her up on blind dates because he wants her to get married. I'm like, why do you need to be set up on dates?
Yeah.
And I said, is this, and I asked her, I said, is this part of your culture, your heritage? What is your family tradition that, dad has to do this? She goes, oh no, I'm allowed to find my own dates. I said, oh, well, I said, you're stunning. You are breathtakingly beautiful. And I cannot imagine that you need to be set up on a date, because I'd imagine there'd be lines at your door. And she said, oh no, really, I'm just very shy. She goes, I won't talk to men. Last time I checked,
Yeah, yeah,
I said, you've been talking to me for 4 hours now. And she said, but that's different. If you were some young, good looking guy I was interested in, I would never be able to talk to
oh, man. Oh, man.
you. So there's a lesson to be learned right there in humility, right? You got to learn to
Yeah,
laugh at yourself. I could have been mortified,
yeah,
but instead I thought it was funny. And when she realized what came out of her mouth, she was mortified. I'm like, no, it's fine. She goes, well, I didn't mean it. I said, yes, you did,
yeah.
but it's fine, And so, of course, as soon as we landed, I called my wife and told her the story. And she's like, "It's nice to know my hubby is so safe." Then I was mortified. I'm like, "Wait a minute now."
Oh my goodness. Th- That's pretty
but
funny.
you but you never know, right? The people you meet in life and the lessons you learn, right? So here was this little conversation I had with this woman on a plane. I remember this. I tell this story, and I use the story to talk about how we need to learn to laugh at ourselves, right? Not take ourselves so seriously. Um, and it's a wonderful life lesson that I bless this woman and for what she said, um, for the lesson and kind of that reminder to laugh at ourselves.
Yeah. I also want to go back to, since we're kind of talking about the whole, like the judging people and whatnot, the analogy used with the people, um, meeting each other, like walking on the street and whatnot. So something that I have noticed about people in general and myself is like, so one thing for me, if that happens to me, right? So if I'm walking and like there's very little room for me and somebody to pass, or if there's a lot of room, regardless, I always make the decision. So I make the decision to like and make it obvious. I'll go like very far right to
Mhm.
let to let the other person know, like I don't have time to do this like type thing.
Yeah.
Like
The
I'm
shall
going,
we dance thing, right?
yeah, like I'm going to make the decision to go very far right, so you have all of this room to go far left. And I've told this story on another podcast and to close friends of mine. But so it's me and two of my friends. We're in New York. I went to go meet them. Um, and like so me and my size, and then I have another friend and he's a black dude, and then the other guy was a Dominican guy. Well, we're just walking down the street in New York and it's nighttime. And there was a white dude and a white lady. They were together. They were a couple and they were walking behind us. And I do photography and videography. So I looked behind us to see them because I
Is there
heard the
anything you
footsteps.
don't do, man, by the
I
way?
do everything.
I know.
So
Anyway, go ahead, go ahead.
but so I saw them coming up behind us, and the female had a camera, and I turned around and looked, and I was like, "Hey, what are you shooting with?" And then she like literally jumped into the guy's arms, and I could see the fear on her, like her face froze, and she
Mm.
froze, and I was like, it took me aback, but and then she was like, "Huh?" And I was like, What kind of camera are you using?" And then she could barely even like it's like she forgot. She forgot that she was even holding a camera. Like she
Yeah,
like looked
yeah.
down and was so confused and she could barely even answer me. Like she didn't even know what kind of camera she had. And I was like, man, because again, I'm from the South where like people are super nice and like most people like they just talk to people. Like, yeah, the South is also known for being hella racist, but also like,
I was stationed in Mobile.
oh, really?
So yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I definitely felt the racism there.
I'm from Alabama, so like
Hmm.
I know that people can be really racist, but also people can be really nice at the same time. So like it it was just really strange. But I've traveled. I was in the Air Force, so I've traveled and met many different kinds of people. But like for her to just do that was so strange. And the guy was kind of like he didn't seem bothered, but it was just so strange for her to have that reaction. And I thought I had handled it as easily as I could. I didn't know what else I could have done to make her feel comfortable. I thought I did the best job I could, but it
Yeah.
still scared the piss out of her. But
Yeah.
I just
Oh
think
man.
it's wild to have that kind of reaction to just be with people. And I wasn't right next to her, maybe like within 6 feet, social distancing type
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
type distance. And this was probably in like 2021, I think, 2022, something like that.
During COVID.
Yeah, so I was, a good distance from her and everything, but she still had that kind of reaction. And I just thought it was wild that, people can do that. And yeah, it was night. Yeah, I'm a big black dude, but you know, what have you with those kind of situations. I think that people do tend to judge a little bit hard. And as I said, I try, like I'm cognitive enough and I have the emotional intelligence to realize like, hey, if you're going to um encounter a stranger, like number one, give them space because most people don't like it if you're in their bubble and they don't know you.
Right. Yep,
And,
exactly. Unless you're
and
in Europe, then it's a
yeah,
whole other
yeah,
story.
yeah. And to like, use your words carefully. I probably shouldn't have said, "What are you shooting with?" I probably should have
That's
said something differently. Which
it might have been a good idea to start off with, hey, I'm a photographer too, what are you shooting with? And that would have encapsulated the category of your conversation, right? So it was then I'm interested as a photographer's perspective, maybe not, taking away the whole concept of shooting, right? But from a photographer's perspective, interested in your camera, not from a, hey, big black dude going to steal your camera perspective of what is it that you got there, so I know whether or not it's valuable or worth my time to steal. Because
yeah.
that, what was going through her brain. We have, our society has poisoned ourselves, I think, so much with preconceived notions, with suspicions, with stereotypes, with all this stuff, which is what I try so hard, to change. Look, I'm a 65-year-old fat guy. All right. Big Italian, and I'm not 5'3" anymore. I'm 5'6", 5'7", whatever the heck I measure out to be at any given time. I was up to 5'8" at one point, but then gravity's taken its toll. As I've gotten wider, it's coming down shorter. Um, I'm a double X Adonis at this point in my life. And people have a very different opinion of me as they see me. And some people are disgusted because I'm a big, heavy guy and I'm at the buffet, right? Like, oh, there's that fat guy, Yeah. I'm not fat because I eat a lot, although I do eat a lot. I'm fat because, I had some changes in my medical situation. You don't know what's going on in my life. You don't know what my story is. You don't know why I am the way I am. You don't know that I used to be a skinny guy, right? You don't know that I used to be a shy guy. Here I am. I'm a motivational speaker. I'm out there talking in front of groups, hundreds, thousands of people. And it's funny because my high school classmates are like, I can't believe you're doing that. I should uh, I should find a picture of that time in my life back in the 70s when I went to the high school reunion. And I'm going to quickly see if I can find this. I know it's a little awkward, but when I was at my high school reunion, and I'm sitting there with these women having dinner, and this is a group of people that wouldn't have given me the time of day back then. And no, I can't get to it on my phone anymore. Um, but anyway, I think I've got it on my webpage or whatever. But there's a picture of me with a big head of hair from high school and a little cheesy mustache, because I was an Italian guy. And in that picture, you could see a vague resemblance to Prince.
Mm.
And so here was this woman who's sitting there at dinner with me at the high school reunion. And she said, John, we used to talk about you all the time. I said, I didn't even know you knew I existed. She said, yeah, we knew what happened to you after high school because we knew you used to play the guitar and you were really skinny and you had this high voice. And we knew that you became Prince.
Wow. That's
I'm like, that is the funniest damn story.
That is
But
crazy.
actually, the picture is on my Facebook. It's in one of my Facebook albums. So if you wanted to check that out, a black and white picture, my high school yearbook picture. It's hysterical, to look back at all that and look at um, but like I said, looking at what people thought of me then, what people think of me now, what people think in different encounters. Um, I'm an Italian guy. I hug. Now in this day and age, I didn't used to have to do this, but now it's like I have to ask. I have
Mm,
to ask if it's okay to shake hands half the time.
mm.
We've become such an uber sensitive society, and I really think we need to get over ourselves. And I think we need to get past all of this uh, self-righteousness that has come about in our society, and then start. I mean, we are backtracking. We are backtracking big time, where it's now like okay to insult people and to mock people that are different than us.
Mm.
No, no, that's not the world that I have been trying to help form, and who had been improving in that direction for many years. And now it's just, yeah, it's getting bad again.
Oh man. So something that you just said just triggered in my head. So a guy I know on social media just recently posted about how he was talking about like people who don't I guess it's like people who have grown up in one area and like still live there. Uh
Yeah.
kind of have like groupthink where they think everybody thinks the same and stuff like that. And I was like, that's a mark of, to me, that's a big indicator. If you have like groupthink where you think like, oh, everybody thinks the same way I think, then that
Hmm.
means you probably haven't traveled a lot. Like you probably have lived in the same spot for a long time.
Right, right. Yeah, you haven't experienced anything else, and you
Yeah.
don't know anything else.
But something that you just said made me think about like people working from home now. There's so many people working from home now.
Yeah,
And I think that's going to affect people's social skills
it
because
has.
if everybody's working from home and like so my business partner, he's been recording his like he has a recording studio that he does like that's it. That's his job and that's his
Mhm.
business. And he's been doing that since like 2018 or something like that. And I can tell in the way that he like talks and like works with other people and like reacts to other people's actions. I'm like, oh, yeah, you don't you like or you've been affected by owning your own business and just
Yes.
and doing what you want to do all the time. Because if you work in a company, like in a corporation where you have to work with other people and deal with other people and answer to somebody else,
Hmm.
like you become a better teammate because you are more courteous to other people and you understand what other people are kind of going through. And
Basic social skills,
yes, and I think that
basic social skills, teamwork, collaboration, compromise, all of those things that are so critically important.
yes,
You
I
know,
think
the biggest thing impacted that way is trust.
yeah,
When you don't think people think the way you do, you don't trust them. And trust is probably the most important factor that we have, uh, in that we need in society in order to be able to function. And okay, sometimes we trust somebody, we get burned, and then we don't want to trust the next person, and it happens. Um, i i got burned in personal relationships multiple times, and then I joined the Navy, and I'm watching my fellow sailors with their relationships, with their wives and stuff back home, and those relationships were just tanking because people we're away at sea 6 to 8 months at a time, and we didn't have email and cell phones and stuff like that back then. Um, our my when I finally met a woman that became my wife, it was hard for me to trust her. There was something about her said she's trustworthy,
mm,
and she trusted me. And I was, like I said, I'm a sailor, for crying out loud. I'm traveling around the world. I did not have a girl in every port. So there goes that stereotype right out the window. Um, but I saw so many relationships just falling apart because of those physical distances and long separations. If you don't have trust, you can't maintain a relationship.
yeah,
And with Bonnie and I, we learned to trust each other. We learned that we had to trust each other for our own sanity's sake. Because once you don't trust and you start being suspicious and suspecting. And when you start suspecting things, it's hard to get over that belief that something is awry, that
mm,
something is different. And it's what your brain will do with that, and how your imagination will run away with that. You destroy your own relationship just because you imagine something, not because they did something.
yeah,
And so in society in general, right? We've got to learn to be able to trust each other. And if trust gets violated, okay, it's really hard to rebuild that. And it makes it harder to trust the next person, but you've got to try. There's a couple of things that I really, really emphasize, trust being the number one. The second is opportunity, right? You got to give somebody the opportunity to succeed as well as the opportunity to fail. That was something my dad taught me. Dad said, try everything.
Mm,
You know, just you don't know until you tried it, right? Don't tell me you don't like that food if you haven't tried it.
yeah.
But also don't tell me you don't like that person unless you've given them the opportunity to prove themselves or not prove themselves or to behave in a way that, goes against your values or whatever.
Yeah.
So trust and opportunity and respect being critical, right? You have to respect each other as a human being. If nothing else on the planet, you have to respect each other as that. And respect their expertise, respect where they're coming from. The next piece of that is because I think we've lost the ability to communicate with each other. People don't want to be open and vulnerable. And let's face it, some people are selfish and only want to communicate what they want to communicate.
Mm,
And if it's something anti to whatever their perspective is, they want to shut down. They don't want to listen. So we need to get better at communicating with each other and communicating in a way that acknowledges that we're open, right? We need to listen, not just so that we're waiting for our turn to say the next thing, but listen so we actually are listening and hearing what the other person is saying. And then the last piece of all of this is the element of humanity and understanding that everybody is a human being and got stuff going on in our lives, right? We've all got shit. Ooh, I said. For those of you listening, we talked about whether or not it was okay to use language on this this podcast. You never know, right? But I mean, no, true. We all encounter shit in our lives, right? And we have a choice. We can either, wallow in the stench of it, or we can turn it into fertilizer and grow from it.
mm.
So those things, that trust, opportunity, respect, communication, and humanity, that's my acronym for TORCH. And that is the light that we have to share with others and the light that keeps us going on the inside.
Yeah, that was pretty powerful. I'm definitely stealing that shit analogy because that was pretty good. But like, yeah, people, and I think a mark of somebody who I'm just gonna hands down like is somebody who listens. Like, it's really hard to hate somebody who will listen to you. Like, it's almost impossible to hate somebody who's willing to listen to everything you have to say.
You know what?
And
That is brilliant.
I didn't, again, I didn't think about that till you were just talking, because it's like, how are you going to dislike somebody who's willing to take the
You know why? You know why, Jackson? Because you listened.
time?
So I like you, man.
I mean, it's very foundational as a person. It's like, if you're just like screaming at somebody and they're just sitting there like, okay, yes. And like, that's either A, going to make you even more mad that they're willing
Mm-hmm.
to listen to you, or B, you're going to calm down because you're like,
Right.
oh, this person isn't mad. Like, they're not,
Yeah, right. It's not escalating here.
yeah, yeah. So you'll genuinely just be like, this person ain't that bad because they're just listening to you. And somebody that will infuriate you is a person who doesn't listen. Like, anytime, bots are getting real bad on social media and whatnot. And anytime I see a conversation, like, I use X for like sports. That's pretty much all I use X for.
Mhm.
And I'll see like people arguing. Like, I love
I can't get into calling it X, by the way.
yeah, I try to
I
like force
in
myself.
my in my tribute to Prince, I'll say it's the platform formerly known as
No.
Twitter.
I'm gonna start using it. That's funny. Formerly known as Twitter. But yeah, I follow a lot of like college football and basketball. Right now we've got March Madness and
March Madness.
professional football, but I'll just look at people's conversations and I'm just like, that person's not even listening. Like they just had an agenda that they wanted
Yeah.
to get off of their chest, and then they
Mhm.
just clocked out. Like after they said what they wanted to say, they didn't even care about the rest of this conversation. Sometimes I'm like, that's probably a bot. Like that's probably just, just AI or something just saying some stuff. And the other
That's a good assumption, but unfortunately, I think in the way our society has gotten so bad at communication, I think social media is a big part of that downfall is of human interaction because you can kind of hide behind a profile or
Mm,
just you can ignore or delete or block or just say what you want and spew it out there to the world and you don't have to listen to anybody else. um it's I think it's been a great opportunity to communicate with people and a huge detriment in the way people communicate with each other.
yeah.
But between the COVID and remote working and social media, I think those things have really done a lot of damage to society, so that it's okay to use bots. And I hate the bots. Sorry, I don't hate much. There's a couple of things I hate. One is intolerance. I'm intolerant of intolerance,
Mhm,
and I hate the dehumanification of society by the use of bots.
mm. I think that
I think I made up that word. Dehumanification.
we'll run with it.
Dehumanizing. There we go. That's what I should have said. Anyway.
I do think that like those situations of bots communicating, and I seen, so there's a guy named Lane Norton who's well respected in his research with just human functionality when it comes to performance and working out and also
Yeah.
nutrition. But he, like, his thing is like bashing people who just like say random stuff online, like biohacker type people who are like,
Yeah.
just do this and you'll be fit and all this kind of stuff. Like he loves debunking
Especially
what
when
they
they're
say.
wrong.
Yeah, yeah, he loves debunking what they say. And I sometimes you'll see him commenting and getting into arguments with people. I'm just like, Lane, it's okay. Like that might be a bot. At least I hope it is. But some people, they just, as I said, they have an agenda and they just want to say what they want to say, and they don't care
Yeah.
what kind of data you have to back up what,
Yeah.
like, Lane is a doctor. Like he knows his stuff. He's I think he's a doctor, and he's been through university and done his studies. But like these people will treat him like he's some Joe Schmo who doesn't know what he's talking about, and it's like you have to respect somebody who is using data to back up what they're talking about. They're not just making it up. They're not just
But
saying random
it's
stuff.
so, and that's part of the problem, with the dehumanification. I'm going to use that word again. Um, is that we have gotten to a point where we don't trust the data. We don't trust people who are using data. We have a belief and we're going to go along with that belief, and anything that contradicts that belief, we're going to toss aside.
Yeah,
It started, you start really popping out in the early days of COVID and how all of that stuff, all the science got politicized, and once you start doing that, it's just, it's a downfall.
you
What
lose
it
that
comes down
trust.
to in the long run, I think, and I know we're running tight on time, is down in the long run, we need to respect each other and realize that each and every one of us matters. And in this big world that we have out there, um, that's all anyone really wants out of life, is to know that they matter, that what they do makes a difference. And it does. It absolutely does. If you smile at somebody today and just give them that split second, that little bit of joy, that recognition that says that they mattered to you in that moment enough for you to smile at them, they may smile at the next person, and they may smile at the next person, and next thing you know, everybody's day has been lightened. That's what we need to do more of, man.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you saying that reminds me of some. I'll probably never forget this, just because it was so simple, but it was literally what you just said. Like when I was in college, I had like a 10 to 15 minute walk to my classes from my house on campus, and I was walking down the street, the sidewalk, and I saw probably the most attractive girl I've ever seen, and I don't know if she like was in the same classes of the same area of classes that I was in, but I just passed her like on my walk. And I think I just smiled at her and she smiled back at me. And like I never talked to her ever again, never saw her ever again.
uh-huh.
But I will remember that for just because it was
Yes.
so small. And I smiled at her, she smiled back at me, and that was it.
Yep. Yep. But
I
it's
think
just those little moments. You don't know when somebody just needs a smile, right? You
yeah,
don't know when somebody just needs a pat on the back or a thank you,
yeah.
to realize the fact that they matter. I have had I am very grateful. I've had a lot of wonderful things happen in my life. Am I a millionaire? No. I'm 65. I'm working on my second million because the first one didn't work out. So I just said I'm just going to start over. Uh, but I'm a 5-time international best-selling author. Have I written a book? No. I've been a contributing author in multiple books with other authors. And so because of that, I get out there and get my thoughts shared. I'm very grateful for the opportunities I've had in my life. I'm grateful for my wife, who never actually said yes, by the way. Um, but it is the same woman I met, when I was back in the Navy, right? We were approaching our 39th wedding anniversary. Right. I'm thankful for the opportunities that I've had. When we first started to communicate and you reached out and said, "You sound like an interesting guy. I'd like to have you on my podcast." I'm like, dude, I matter. Thank you. Thank you for noticing me. Thank you for making me feel special. But then I was like, I hope I'm worthy, because I listened to listen to some of your podcasts. Like, this is all about music. I hope I'm worthy. What kind of things can we talk about? And so, but there are I've had these opportunities. I've had some great people in my life who've encouraged me, and and then I run across guys like you, man, who help to further the good word, and to get out there and do your part to make the world a better place. This podcast of yours, I've listened to a whole bunch of episodes now, because I wanted to understand, where you were, what you were about, and I think you've got some great variety of guests. Your life itself is an inspiration because you do so many things. Uh, I try to do a lot of things too. I had a wonderful opportunity to tour with a blues band. I was not a performer. My wife managed the band. It was Peter Tork from the Monkees and his blues band,
Mm.
Sway Blues. So because of that, we became friends with a celebrity. Peter Tork, for crying out loud. I got to be backstage at Monkees concerts. These are things that not everybody gets to do. I'm very thankful for those opportunities, and I've got wonderful, life stories from all of it, and everything that happens to us in life, whether it's good, bad, or whatever, helps to make us the person that we are. And even if you've got a bunch of bad stuff going on in your life, everything is an opportunity to grow, to learn from it, and to move on to the next thing.
Absolutely. And I think that when we take our time to just understand, one, like other people's stories, what other people have to offer. Like I heard this one time, this guy said every dud knows a stud. So you need to be able to just take what people, their story or their life and
That was me back in the disco era, man. I hung out with the stud because I was the dud.
like every person out there might know somebody that's going to help you, and they might know that one person that might get you to where you need to go. So that's it. That phrase just kind of encourages you to just be nice to everybody, because you don't know
Yeah.
what that person has in store to help you out. But
Uh,
I
a final thought on that, if I can throw it out there.
Go ahead.
Um, James Lee Stanley, who is a folk singer, by the way, he tells this story, and he first told me about this proverb, and so I want to give him kudos for that. Um, but it's an ancient proverb, and it says that if you live long enough, everything will happen to you.
Mm,
And that means at some point in life you'll be doing well, not so well, you'll be healthy, you'll be sick, you'll be hungry, you'll be full, you'll be, you'll have enough, you'll be needy. In some chapter of your life, you may be the hero of a story. In another chapter, you may be the victim in the story.
mm.
And then yet even another chapter, you may be the villain in someone else's story. And you don't know, everyone is going through this. Everyone is going through a variety of things. You don't know what's going on in other people's lives. So with that, why can't we just be a little bit more compassionate and understanding and open to understanding?
Absolutely. Great final words. So it's about time to wrap up. If you could, go ahead and I know you mentioned having a website. You mentioned being a part of books. Go ahead and let everybody know how they can find those things and how they can and reach out to you if they need your services.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So my website is easy. It's www.johnverrico.com, JohnVerrico.com. I'm on Instagram, Facebook. On Facebook, I'm on John Verrico Speaks. Instagram, John Verrico. I'm on LinkedIn, John Verrico. I'm on the platform formerly known as Twitter, is J Verrico. Uh, I've got a SoundCloud account. You can also find me as John Verrico there on SoundCloud. There were about 30 some odd episodes of a radio show I used to do, as well as some of the podcasts that I've been fortunate enough to be a guest on. I will be starting my own podcast in the near future, I hope. I've got, like I said, I'm a 5-time international best-selling author in two volumes of Cracking the Rich Code, and also in 3 different volumes of The Art of Connection. And The Art of Connection is 365 days of quotes. And so it's me and like 300 other authors just putting in an inspirational quote and kind of a little elaboration on that quote, and then kind of a challenge to the reader to take that information to heart. So, and I've been in 3 of those. Uh, fourth one coming of those, and a third one coming at Cracking the Rich Code. I've also been in 18 other books um, that were mostly textbooks on communication and leadership. So I try to be out there as much as possible, and I do not hide.
Well, it's been fantastic talking to you, getting to know you, and understanding, everything that you've been through from your younger years of being the scrawny little kid to being who you are now, the outer shell and not locked in your shell, a person who is definitely spreading your story and spreading your kindness, your smile, and helping other people kind of do the same. So again, thank you for
Sure.
coming on and sharing.
Jackson, there are so many stories, and love to maybe come back again, talk some more, but also love to have you on my podcast when I get that going.
Awesome. Yeah, just let me know for sure.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, thank you for everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.